So this is Amy Chua's Tolerance of the Tang. So let's get through this, all right? In the end, Tao Zhong's experiment with a universal empire proved a failure. Tang China ultimately could not overcome the deep-seated, centuries-old Chinese contempt for and fear of barbarians. Unlike Rome, China never developed a concept of political citizenship that could apply and appeal equally to Chinese and non-Chinese alike. Rather, the overarching political and social identity that united China remained essentially ethnic, with barbarians on the other side of the line. When cracks appeared in the empire and non-Chinese groups like the Uyghurs and Tibetans became an increasingly aggressive threat, native Chinese intolerance surged. In 760, thousands of Arab and Persian merchants were slaughtered by Chinese brigands in Yangzhou. In 779, the Tang Emperor Dezhong banished foreign envoys and banned non-Chinese groups from wearing Chinese dress. Imperial policy toward the people of the steppe changed. There was no longer even a pretense that the northern nomads were equal partners with the Chinese. At best, the barbarians were the claws and teeth of the empire, whose duty it was to defend the Tang frontiers for the benefit of the Chinese. As xenophobia set in, Tang cosmopolitanism rapidly dissipated. Chinese scholar officials from the southeast, who had risen through the examination system, spread the idea that Chinese moral standards and superior culture had been polluted by the decadent, barbarian-blooded aristocrats from the north. Among the literati, a movement grew to reassert traditional Chinese values and ancient Chinese literary styles. Foreign influences and ideas were now seen as corrupt, and the roads to Central Asia were literally closed. In a historical pattern that would reappear many times, China turned self-destructively inward, cutting itself off from the rest of the world, trying to achieve purity by ridding itself of foreign elements. Right. Tang intolerance intensified in the 9th century. In 836, an imperial decree prohibited Chinese from interacting with people of color, referring to foreigners from Southeast Asia or beyond the Pamir Mountains, including Arabs, Persians, Indians, Malays, Sumatrans, and other groups. More striking still was the burst of religious persecution under Emperor Wuzong, an ardent Taoist. Manichaeism, the religion of many Uyghurs, was first to be targeted. In 840, Wuzong ordered the execution of 70 Manichaean nuns, the destruction of Manichaean temples, and the confiscation of the Manichaean lands. 5 years later, in the Great Proscriptions of 845, the emperor struck at all foreign religions. Christian and Zoroastrianism churches and temples were suppressed and their priests forbidden from preaching, in order that they may no longer corrupt Chinese simplicity and moral purity. Buddhism, above all, despite its Sinicization and popularity among the Chinese, came under attack. The Buddhist church had grown increasingly decadent in the late Tang period, and whereas the imperial government was financially strained, the Buddhist monasteries were scandalously wealthy. Some of this wealth was enjoyed by corrupt monks who broke the Buddhist vow of poverty to live in open luxury. Most of the church's wealth took the form of large monastic estates and precious metals cast as statues, bells, and other religious objects. Emperor Wuzong's prescriptions decree specifically accused Buddhism, which it labeled a foreign religion, of debilitating China morally and economically. Partly to increase dwindling imperial revenues, Wuzong forcibly secularized 260,000 monks and nuns, returning them to the tax registers. More than 4,000 Buddhist monasteries and 40,000 smaller temples were shut down or converted to public use. Large properties belonging to the church were confiscated, and bronze statuaries melted down to make coins. But Wuzong's attempt to eradicate Buddhism proved unsuccessful. Many officials throughout the empire were sympathetic to Buddhism and quietly resisted the emperor's orders. Moreover, just 2 years after Wuzong's Great Proscriptions, a new emperor ascended the throne and reversed his predecessor's anti-Buddhist policies, restoring damaged temples and even building new monasteries. Although past its heyday, Buddhism in China would survive for centuries to come. By contrast, Manichaeism, Nestorian Christianity, and Zoroastrianism all eventually disappeared from China. The prestige and power of the Tang rulers declined throughout the 9th century. Regional warlords came to rule their own kingdoms, and the central government lost fiscal control. Between 875 and 884, another series of uprisings shattered the empire. The final collapse of the Tang dynasty was protracted and bloody. Chang'an was looted and ravaged in Canton. Rebels massacred 120,000 foreign merchants, including Muslims, Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians. In 904, a regional commander named Zhu Wen captured the emperor, executing him along with his entire imperial entourage, including servants. The dismantled palaces of Chang'an were floating down the Wei River to Liyong, where Zhu Wen had set up his own capital. The end of the Tang dynasty is usually dated at 907, when Zhu Wen slaughtered the last boy emperor of the House of Tang. After the fall of the Tang Empire, China turned increasingly insular and xenophobic. Chinese in staggering numbers migrated from the north, where the barbarian threat was greatest, to the south, which would henceforth be home to the great majority of China's enormous population. Ironically, it would be the barbarians who a few centuries later would be tolerating the Chinese and creating history's next world dominant power. So what we have here is this is what Amy Chua is saying, and so I would really much like you guys to compare what she is saying to what we have read. So I have no idea how to flip my camera back to me. Have a good day.